Hi friends, your pal Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about Joan Didion. So Joan Didion was a famous American writer. She specialized in themes of dislocation and specifically social and political fragmentation. In 1979, she wrote the following: "We tell ourselves stories in order to live." And so I believe what she was saying is that without narrative, we are intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually dead. I agree with her, okay? But I would take her words further, and I would say that we, you and I, tell ourselves Dungeons and Dragons stories in order to believe. In order to believe what? Well, in order to believe that we can slay dragons. So Gary Gygax, Thursday, February 7th, 1974, Gary Gygax puts Dungeons and Dragons into the world, and he did it for a very special reason, so that we would tell ourselves Dungeons and Dragons stories. And that was extremely valuable and extremely important on February 7th, 1974, day one of Dungeons and Dragons, but it is 100 times more important in 2025, right? And the reason why is we have dragons. There are dragons in our personal lives. There are dragons in our community. There are dragons in our nation. There are dragons in our world. There are these, chromatic, they come in every shape, they come in every size, right? They are wormlings, they are adult, they are ancient, and they're everywhere, and it's very bad, and we need to be very careful to to make sure that that we can identify dragons, right? Because sometimes, and Gary just put so much into place, right? So can we identify dragons? Okay, well, what's a dragon look like? Well, they have scales, and they have a breath weapon, and they have wings, and they have claws. Oh, but sometimes they are human. Sometimes they take the shape of humans, and they talk like humans, and they dance like humans, and they look like humans. In fact, they could take any form, right? And Gary was there. He was like, dragons are going to come. They're going to be in your personal life. They're going to be in your community. They're going to be in your nation. They're going to be in your world. And you need to know two things. You need to know that you can slay dragons, and you need to know how to do it, right? So how do we do it? Well, first and foremost, sword and board. You have to be equipped, right? And so, Gary was saying, hey, get your boots on, get geared up. And that means we need to labor hard. We need coin to get the right gear to go out. We need to be equipped. We need to be ready, right? And we have to have our boots on. Dungeons and Dragons people can't wear flip-flops. We don't wear flip-flop. We don't run flip-flop lives. Like every time I walk out of the door, I am like, what's on my feet is if I needed to fight a bear, right? Because Gary said you need to be able to know when you are in the presence of a dragon, and you need to know how to fight them, right? So we need to be equipped, and this taught me early, like you need to be ready. You need to be providing for yourself. You need to be providing for the ones that you love, and everybody's got to be equipped, right? You have to have sword and board, right? And you have to know how to use your equipment, right? And then the other one is you don't go alone, right? Like it's 5 players, right? He's like, put your war band together, get your material, get your group together, right? You need a war band. You need an adventuring party. You're not going to get this done on your own. There is a tail that will come with a spike at the end of it. There are, 4 appendages with claws. There is a breath weapon. You are not going to be able to do this alone, right? And so Joan Didion was correct. We tell ourselves stories in order to live. I am correct. We tell ourselves Dungeons and Dragons stories in order to believe that we can slay dragons. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.